Hey everybody, welcome to episode 23. I don't know why I'm still counting them. We've done some episodes. We'll do some more. Let's stop counting them. Although, I feel like everything I count these days doesn't need to be counted. Most days I know exactly how many days it's been since I played a show. We're getting close to 280 right now. I always know what day of the week it is, though it almost never matters to me personally. But human beings like to mark things, I guess. And if we count episodes of the podcast, maybe someday we'll get to some milestone, 50 episodes, 100 episodes, 100 episodes. That seems excessive, don't you think? That's a lot of me just sitting around talking about things. I hope you guys had a good week. I hope, you're making your way through things as best you can and finding little things to laugh about and, be excited about and that kind of thing. One of the things that I heard this week that I thought was interesting was a big movie production company, I think it was Warner or somebody, decided that all of their movies are going to go right to HBO Max, and they'll still be in theaters, but if you have HBO Max, you can just stream them from home. And of course, this set off quite the kerfuffle in the world. Filmmakers are very upset because, the theater experience is sort of what they make movies for, and I imagine anybody who's not HBO is upset because they're not going to get first shot at these movies, and the theaters themselves are upset and all this kind of stuff. And it sort of got me to thinking about the music industry. Technically, I guess I'm a part of the music industry. It often does not feel that way. I feel like I'm a musician. I don't feel very industrial, though, or industrious. But it did get me to thinking about how these industries kind of kill themselves and then blame other people or each other within their industry. I sort of really came into my own as a music fan at the height of CD sales, because I started buying music several years before I lived in a house that had internet. I'm that kind of bizarre age where I'm not a millennial, but I'm not a Gen Xer. So I lived the first 17 or 18 years of my life without internet or a cell phone or anything like that. And then gradually from 18 to 20 something, that stuff became everyday life. But the beginnings of my fandom and my youthful fandom were sans internet, which meant no MP3s and that kind of thing. So I was buying a lot of CDs. And maybe that's why I still buy physical media. I don't know. But I remember vividly watching it go from a CD's $10, it's $12. And then all of a sudden one day it was like $16. And then all of a sudden one day it was like $20. And then all of a sudden one day you're at the mall and they're selling CDs for like $25. And now they're copy protected, so you can't put them on your computer. And I think to try to fight off MP3s and the internet, the music industry inadvertently made their product way less appealing to people, especially people that were embracing this new technology and that kind of thing. And we all know the end result of that was a lot of people say physical media is dead. In fact, new cars don't have CD players in them. That makes me feel very old, because I still, I really like physical media. But now you see the same thing happening with the movies. Like, they'll sit around and they'll go, streaming is what killed the movies. And I go, I don't think so. I think what killed the movies is that you started letting people go in there barefoot and you started serving them chicken tenders and stuff while I'm trying to watch a movie. And you sort of ran off people that were actually there for the theater experience, and you catered almost exclusively to people that wanted to pretend they were at home. And then the opportunity to just be at home comes along, and those people take it. And then actual theater goers are sort of burned out because this whole place smells like ketchup and feet. And I don't want to go to the movies anymore. Plus it's so expensive and, you know, all this kind of stuff. And I just thought it was interesting. And I'm sure there's some information or knowledge to be gleaned about how often our problems are our own, you know, and we want to say, well, it's streaming, or it's, you know, anxiety or whatever. But really, there's probably a few choices we're making along the way that at the very least are not helping our circumstance. But one of the things, you know, I'm sad to see physical media go, because I think it's affecting the way people feel about stuff. I think we make everything sort of inherently disposable. People are sort of faced either with everything's disposable because it's free and it's invisible and I haven't invested in it. Or they have this kind of option paralysis where I have access to every movie and I can't pick one because there's too many. Because I think about how often I listen to a record, and the way I pick the record is not by sitting around and deciding, oh, I feel like listening to The Clash. What I do is I walk over to my giant shelf of records and I just kind of look at it and I wait for something to jump out at me. And I feel like you can't really have that with Spotify or Netflix or anything like that. So the stuff that I really love, I try to keep a physical copy of on hand. And like I've talked about this before, but they've done countless studies that, like, if you've paid for something and then not enjoyed it, you're more likely to revisit it because you've invested in it. You paid $20 for this DVD or this book or this record, and you want to like it. And oftentimes you will like it after the third or fourth visit, and that's usually a much more rewarding kind of enjoyment, because you do feel like you've sort of burrowed down into this piece of art that you love, and now it's kind of yours, you know. I very recently bought a piece of physical media. There's this book that I think we've talked about before called Juliet Naked by a gentleman named Nick Hornby. He wrote About a Boy, and he wrote High Fidelity, and he wrote a book called Long Way Down that I like a lot. And I love this book. And one day my wife and I were sitting around kind of cruising around through Hulu, and we saw that they made it into a movie with Rose Byrne and Ethan Hawke and Chris O'Dowd, who I think is very funny. And we watched the movie, and it was just lovely. It was I thought a really good adaptation of the book, and it was also, it sort of recalled a lot of romantic comedies that I was familiar with from when I was a little bit younger. And it was just a really nice movie to sit and watch on a Sunday afternoon. And last week I just got it into my head, like, well, at some point they'll take it off Hulu, and then I won't have access to that movie anymore. So I got to go buy that movie. So I go on them internets to see if you can get it on DVD, and it turns out you can, and it's lovely, and I'm excited. And there's a special feature on the making of the movie, which I'm excited to watch. That's the other thing. You get special features, man. And now I own it, and it's mine, and it can't be taken away from me because Hulu gets a wild hair up its ass and decides they need to make more room for reality dating shows. Anyways, so I'm on the internet, and I'm reading reviews of this movie that I really enjoy, and that had been very well received by critics and the public and all this stuff. And there are a number of reviews that are very bothered by the fact that there is a side character in this movie who happens to be a lesbian. And the sky is falling on these poor people, and nobody is listening to them, and they're very upset. They're just, gay stuff is on my TV. But the best one, and I feel like this is sort of, when something is a bad idea, it will reveal itself to be such pretty quickly and pretty loudly. For example, one of the number one celebrities aligned with the anti-vaccination movement is Rob Schneider. There you go. You're not going to see Daniel Day-Lewis take a break from cobbling shoes to say that vaccines cause autism, because he's not an idiot. So I'm reading these reviews of these people that are just triggered. They've been violated by having to see a fictional gay person for 2 minutes on a TV. And I swear to God, one of the reviews have titles, and one of them was called "Stop Shoving Gay Down Our Throats." And I have been laughing about that for 4 days. I immediately messaged my wife, and I said, "You're not going to believe what I just saw. Either this person is doing a bit and they're a comedy genius, or this is the funniest, dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life." And if you don't understand why that's so funny, I try not to make this a graphic or obscene podcast. So I'm not going to explain it to you. But to use the phrase, "stop shoving gay down our throats," or was it gay stuff? I don't know. I'll find you guys a screenshot of it, because everyone deserves to share in this. It's hilarious. And it's really nice when something as just foul and cruel and stupid as homophobia reveals itself to just be stupid. And so stupid, in fact, that we can laugh right at it. My point is, check out Juliet Naked, both the book and the movie. I think you'll enjoy it. And quit bothering gay people. They're not bothering you, so chill out. The other bit of media that I revisited, and I guess this is technically a recommendation, but I rewatched for maybe like the 5th or 6th time this movie called Hell or High Water. It's what they call a neo-Western, because it's set in modern times, but it's very much a Western. And it's about these two brothers that are robbing banks for a very specific reason that I won't give away, but I can't recommend it highly enough. And it sort of underlines one of the other great things about revisiting media, which is the first time I saw Hell or High Water, I loved it. But every time I've watched it since, it sort of reveals new stuff. And like with some movies, you get new layers of meaning, but with this movie, I get, the first time you watch it, it's very, there's some action in it, but it's also very complex, because you don't know whose side to be on, and who's doing the right thing and who's doing the wrong thing, and is everyone doing the wrong thing, is everyone doing the right thing. And then as you keep watching it, you get all these wonderful bits of humor and like perfectly timed interactions between these two guys that are playing brothers that really makes you believe that they're brothers. The way they kind of rib each other and get mad at each other and then laugh about it, and good art gets better every time you watch it and kind of deepens. And I think people are more likely to have the desire and the ability to revisit stuff at will if they own it. Plus, you got to support the people making things you like. This would be a terribly crass time to mention that I have a PayPal, so I'm not going to do it. Let's see. The other thing was, last week I talked about wasting time, and when you should, and if you should, and when you shouldn't, and if you shouldn't. And I was very open about the fact that I think sometimes you should just sit around and relax, and let life just kind of wash over you and burn a whole day and that kind of thing. But sometimes you shouldn't, and it's up to us to know which is which. And I had a couple conversations with people about that topic, including one with my wife, where I started talking about the narrative self and the experiential self. And some people call those different things. That's what I call them. And I've heard other people call them that. And sort of knowing this concept and getting real comfortable with it is sort of how I made my peace with sometimes you should waste time, sometimes you shouldn't. Basically, your experiential self is just right in the moment and only in the moment. Your experiential self is why you can spend an hour just mindlessly scrolling through Instagram and feel satisfied and fulfilled. Your narrative self is the one sort of observing your whole life. So your narrative self is the reason you might exercise or eat an apple instead of a donut. Your narrative self can be a drag. But your narrative self is also the one that will, when you're laying in bed that night, go, man, you spent 2 hours on your phone today just doing nothing. You didn't even enjoy it. And sometimes you have to listen to your experiential self to do the fun thing. Sometimes you have to be reckless or just in the moment, you know. But sometimes if you're trying to look out for your future and that kind of thing, you have to listen to the narrative self and maybe even do some things that your experiential self will resist, like exercising or whatever. But I think you can get those two versions of yourself to agree to sit on the couch all day. I think your experiential self can go, yeah, let's watch The Office for 8 hours with our wife and just, you know, just do nothing. And your narrative self can go, yeah, because we need to recharge and we had a busy week and we got a busier week next week and it'd be good to just sit and reconnect with her. And, you know, the problem I think people get into is there's not an exact science to which self you should listen to at which time. And a lot of people are completely unaware of the two. And maybe some people don't have to. I definitely do. And so I think the trick, as always, is to just try to develop an awareness and check in with both, you know. Which, again, is very similar to some of the stuff we talked about last week. But when I was talking to my wife about it, she seemed interested. And we have been together for, you know, 16, 17 years. We've been married for 14 years. And when she's real interested in something, I know it's interesting. Because a lot of times it's just me, you know, repeating stories I've told to her 5 times or telling her jokes that just make her roll her eyes. I will say making her laugh is my favorite thing in the world, though. That's good coffee. I did a pour over today and I made it real strong. Let's do a song. I've already been singing some today. I recorded a cover song for a friend of mine who has a radio show that I will tell you about when it becomes available, but I did a John Prine song for him. And my throat is in this weird place where I have good days and I have bad days, and sometimes it'll feel good and then I'll use it and then it'll start feeling not good. So it's a tricky thing, and I'm still going back and forth with doctors and that kind of thing. But I think I have a good song for the moment. This song is called Hospital Lungs. And it was a song I had around for a long time, and then it finally found a home at the end of a record I made called Blood Harmony. And I'll tell you about that title some other time. But this song is about a specific moment where I was having a lot of stomach problems like 10 years ago, like really debilitating stomach problems, and they didn't know what it was, and there was cancer talk and ulcer talk and all this kind of stuff. And eventually they had to go in and do the camera, and they put me under for that. Side note, I've had that done a couple times. One of the times I asked to not be put under. And if you take anything away from this podcast, let it be this. When a doctor offers to sedate you for something, say yes, because they know what they're doing. And this is no time to be a cowboy or a hero who doesn't like to be put under, because I will never forget the sensation of being fully conscious, eyes open, while a camera went down my throat into my stomach and poked around and took samples and things. So the second time they did this, they put me under, thankfully. And I woke up and I was definitely still under the influence of the anesthesia. I'm never sure. And I reached over to my phone and I texted my wife, just high out of my mind. and I said, everything's fine. I'll see you soon. I love you. I love Ollie. We should leave everything behind and go hunt Bigfoots. We'll be like Johnny and June with a Bigfoot. And I think she still has that message saved somewhere. But that's a real message that I sent her because I was stoned in the hospital. And I got home and I had that feeling of everything still smells and tastes like hospital. And that's where the phrase hospital lungs came from. And the song itself is about when you find what really matters, you can't help but feel some regret for not finding it sooner. And if you're lucky, that feeling will just further dedicate you to the thing that matters the most. And for me, that's my wife and my son. And if I'm being honest, I need music to be happy, I think. I need them to exist. You know what I mean? Like, they're easily by a million miles the two most important people and things and relationships and connections in my life. And my relationship with her is as annoyingly wonderful as you might suspect. Mostly because she's a very patient gal. And to return that wonderful joy she's brought to my life, I have written her 1,000 songs. Maybe not 1,000, but it's a lot. Every love song I write is genuinely, specifically about her, including this one. And it's called Hospital Lungs, and it's mushy and squishy, and that's okay. And it's, in my mind, forever attached to getting high legally and thinking about Bigfoot. It goes like this. When you're waiting for no one, they always seem to show. Just take my hand, babe, and we'll get going. We'll be gone before they know. That we're leaving, we don't need no one to tell us why these dreams won't come true. 'Cause I've seen your hopes, dear, and they bowled me over. So I'll stand between these thieves and you. I drown in the stench of what I'm exhaling from exhausted hospital lungs. And I miss the smokes, but just for a minute. Then I wonder about the damage they done. The years I gave up, the years I wasted, I could have spent them all with you. And if I was a wise man, well, I'd have married you sooner and built us a better world around you. You're waiting for no one, well, they always seem to show. Just take my hand, babe, we'll get going. We'll be gone before they know. All right. There was a left hand flub, a tater in there, and I'm pointing it out now so I can point out that I'm trying to not point those out anymore. If you can keep up with that, I can't. Because I played a song a few weeks ago that in the moment in my mind was a mess. There were all kinds of mistakes. And I pointed it out afterwards. And then later I was watching the podcast with my wife because she likes to watch them. And I have to watch them to remember what the heck I said so I can write down a description. And I realized the performance was basically fine. And I shouldn't have made such a deal about how not fine it was. And now I'm doing it again, but in the spirit of not doing it again. So, whoa. Let's do some recommendations. Like I said, Juliet Naked, in whatever form you can find it. I think it's still on Hulu. The movie's very good. The book is really good. Watch Hell or High Water. You get Jeff Bridges, you get Chris Pine, you get Ben Foster. It's really great. Really, really great. I can't recommend it highly enough. And then, as always, let's get you some music, and then let's get you out of here. First, bang. This band is called Them Coolie Boys. This record is called Die Happy. I had the pleasure of meeting these gentlemen. They're from the Eau Claire area, and I even got to play some shows with them. They're very nice. Their crowd is very nice. Their music is very good, and that is a special thing, because I think I've said this before, but as a musician, you still have your own kind of taste and your own preferences, and what you don't have is a lot of control over who you play with all the time. So when you find yourself, the most pressing goal is that you play with people you like as people. I'm sure there are people that like me. I have friends that probably don't listen to my music, but they like me, we get along, and that's the most important thing. But if you can have a situation like with these dudes where they're good people to hang out with and their music's really good, so you get to enjoy your evening as a fan as well, that's a big deal. So this is their second record. I really dig it. My wife really digs it. I was listening to it to sort of refresh my memory of it before I recommended it to you. And I was halfway through the song Find Your Muse. And I turned it off because it was track 4. And I was like, okay, I know what I want to say about the record. And I turned it off mid-song, and my wife from across the room goes, buzzkill. So she likes it too, I guess. Listen to Find Your Muse from the record Die Happy by Them Coolie Boys. Buy their records. They're an independent band in the time of COVID, not unlike myself, and all the support helps. So buy a shirt or something and enjoy their music. It's very good. Up next, this is a record called The Wildness by a gentleman named Joey Kanizer. He came to my attention through his work with a band called Glossary. And Glossary is a hard band to categorize, as is Joey's solo stuff. I don't know him personally. We do have some friends in common. I just love his music and have for a very long time. There's a southern fried element to it, but there's also a real groovy, like R&B element, and there are a lot of times where his voice almost recalls like a youthful Randy Newman in a way. And he's a great lyricist, and he's like I said, he finds the groove, and he records songs that are fleshed out and full, but everything that's happening is important. There's nothing, I was going to say superfluous, but this is not the podcast for those kind of words. There's nothing unnecessary on these songs. Every instrument matters and needs to be there. So what you get are these real lean, like a kind of immediate, important sounding versions of really good songs. So check out Run Like Hell from The Wildness by Joey Kanizer. And don't throw your records around like a moron. And I think that's it. The other funny thing I saw a headline that said, Taylor Swift put out a record. And the headline said, Taylor Swift's new record is not as good as her old record, but it's still better than what everyone else is doing. And that made me laugh. First, because it insults every musician on the planet, and that's bold. Then I realized it also insults Taylor Swift. It says her new one's not as good as her old one, but it's still better than everything anyone else has ever done. And I just thought, like, in a year where Bruce Springsteen has a new record out, maybe that's a little hyperbolic. Maybe. I haven't heard the record. I heard it's very good. And I'm just thankful to her for inventing folk music. I can't help it. I'm not poking fun at her. I'm poking fun at press. Press is ridiculous. It's so silly. If you ever want to have a really, really good laugh, go on a binge of people's bios. Bios are awesome. They're so fun. You get to read about how everyone's a breath of fresh air, and everyone's taking the scene by storm, and everyone's reinvigorating whatever genre they play, and it's awesome. I really like it. Or you can read my bio on ChristopherGold.com, which is a rambling, silly mess that includes a little bit of what I'm saying now. I'm gonna go, but I love you guys. I hope your week is full of good coffee and good hangs with good people and good music and good movies. And thanks for watching. We'll see you soon. I might have something fun to talk about next week, but I'll keep you posted. In the meanwhile, be good, and we'll talk soon. Bye.